Welcome to Project Next Mental Fitness. I am with a Republican, a really smart, caring, empathetic, wonderful Republican. Ben Merk was calling him Paul. He goes by Ben. I know that now. He is a guy that I met at two political events that are mostly Democrats. I met him at an Indivisible meeting. I met him at No Kings 2 protest in Cordon, wasn't that long ago. And I'm now Facebook friends with him, and we've talked. And his vision, his Republican vision for how to fix the country, and Project Next, and a lot of other bridge builders, as he calls it, they're matching up. It's the same. And it really helps to kind of show the fake thing, this division, this all people of the other side are evil and monsters. It really helps to bring that down and be like, no, that's fabricated. That's fake. That's not real. Some people are believing it. Yes, some people are bad. Yes, some people are those things. But the majority of us of Americans are good people, but we sometimes get tricked. Ben, thank you so much for doing this today. I know you're very busy. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm doing so well. I really thank you for the energy you've brought to every event I've seen you at. You carry a light into the room. You're one of those what to call like candle bearers that I'm meeting out in the world. I feel very good about the like attracts like element of seeing more good people, especially in our local community, seeing so much goodwill start to emerge across many groups. So like you said, I'm a Republican. I've always considered myself kind of a center-right constitutional conservative and a fiscal conservative. So that's really where I've honed in. You take the Dave Ramsey mindset. And since I was 18, I was terrified of the debt crossing $10 trillion. I can only be more afraid that's an existential threat for my kids. So watching what's been happening in the last number of months has made it more difficult to kind of understand where my party has been going. So what I've been trying to do is have meaningful, honest conversations. To your point about all people aren't bad, I've had the benefit of living a very varied life, right? I'm a long-time, 18-year clean, recovering drug addict.
And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so thankful you're with us today.
I'm very appreciative of that. I know it's a gift to get clean very young. Has helped me build a life on a foundation of things.
Very quickly, you telling me that shows me one of the reasons why you're so brave. I really like recovering addicts. I meet them in this work that I'm doing because they are braver than the average person, because you could have legit died in your addiction and you also had to like be humble and admit wrong and say sorry and like realize that you did this thing that hurt people you love, and so you just telling us that right at the beginning shows me so much about you. My favorite podcast is Dax Shepard, Armchair Expert.
Oh,
he is a recovered addict, and he talks openly about it. And people call into his shows all the time and say, "You helped me get clean just by talking about it." And so, anyway, thanks for telling us that. But that makes so much sense.
Well, I appreciate that so much, right? Not everyone who gets clean goes through a journey of a 12-step recovery program, but my story does go through a 12-step recovery program. And man, step work is a series of tools that sometimes I forget the values and the principles those teach are things that if I hadn't had to become, an active using addict, I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to get those things, right? I came up from a background of abuse.
I wish everybody learned those 12 steps. I learned them through Dax Shepard, and I was like, oh, I need to apply those to my life. I'm not an addict. Thankfully, I've never really been addicted to anything bad for me. I mean, coffee and running and chapstick, I think, are my three. Maybe reading.
Still an addict, but it's chocolate now, right?
Yeah, see, so it's like I'm addicted to things that are either good for me or don't really hurt me. And so the 12 steps, everybody should do those.
There's it's such a good foundation, and the things it gives you, how do I acknowledge powerless over things beyond my control, but how do I exercise my power over my own agency? And that's a lot of what I'm trying to do right now. You talk about we're trying to find bridge builders and build them up. I feel very grateful that at the time some of this started to populate, right? How I got awake to knowing I had to either choose to be silent because, I fit all the demographics that could keep my head down during an era like this.
Right. You're a white male, middle class,
straight Christian guy, right?
Christian guy. You could just keep on going and your life pretty much stays the same.
But ethically, can I live with myself if I know harm, especially because I've staked myself. Another part of my journey was at 20. I went into basic training. Now, my heart bottomed out at the end, but I swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States, standing in MEPS in Indianapolis, Indiana, prepared to go, train, fight, die, and kill in the name of the defense of the rights of all people. So when I see those being trampled, or when I see those being at risk, I can't put my head down because I have small children. I need a world where if the worst case scenario happened when studying history came about, I'd rather die living honorably and out loud than have stayed quiet and watched horrors unfold on others, because that's what we've seen a lot in history. And I think America's doing a great job of coming together, right? You know, the number of elderly Republicans I saw at like the first No Kings with like, once a Republican, never again. I am a Republican, and I'm not willing to cede that ground, because what I don't see happening with the loudest portion of my population right now is them acknowledging traditional Republican values like constitutionalism, states' rights, small federal government.
Yeah, there are really good principles with the Republican Party.
But that's not how the party's behaving.
They're not acting like that, and they haven't for a while. And it's just this like deadly combination of 24-hour news, the internet, misinformation, like manipulation of massive amounts of people, Trump coming to power, him ruling like a dictator, wanting to be a dictator, wanting to rule authoritarian like, and us not knowing how to handle it. And we hadn't really been paying attention to politics. Like, I was pretty naive up until 9/11. I really thought terrorists were just like in Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. I didn't fully realize when I was in my like late teens, early 20s that was something we had to worry about. So I think it's just this crazy combination of events that led to where we are today.
Yep.
And then the thing that makes me the most upset, I guess, out of all of this is the people that profit off of our fears. And that's why we have the division. Fear sells. Fear makes you click on an article with a scary headline. Fear makes you listen to people saying, this is going to hurt your family. This is going to hurt your neighbor. And you're like, what? And so that's what makes me the most upset, because the majority of Americans are unhappy with what is happening today, but we don't know how to fix it because we're so scared of people that we shouldn't actually be scared of.
Well, and to your point, beyond the money and the profiteering, a poor and afraid population are very easy to historically control. Now, I want to touch on some of the language used. I think it is not unfair to look at history and see authoritarian tendencies strongly happening right now. I tend to lean away from the word fascistic because it tends to reinforce the divide and turn people's ears off.
I think you're right. I think that's
I don't think it's entirely invalid to say that one of the key things is making an enemy out group, which is what has happened. So I think it's fair, but I don't think it's helpful. So
because if I call a Republican voter a fascist, they're not going to listen to me or come over to my side. Also, they might not know what that means. I think there's a large amount of people that don't know what that means, but they know it's bad and they don't like being called a bad word. And then two, their side doesn't see the fascist side we see. They don't see Trump coming in and ruling like authoritarian. They see him coming in and saving us and helping us. So you're very right in that.
And constitutionally, that's where. So the couple of things that started to tee me off to having to put my antennas up. So I have a beautiful 2-year-old medically complex baby. We've had the most hellacious journey over the 2 years, from open heart surgery at 16 days old to severe rounds of multi-hour seizures that wouldn't respond to medicine up through November of last year. So I have very much been like not paying attention. But in April,
Ben, I'm so sorry. Is he stable now? Is he doing better?
He is. Just for today, we are stable. We've got a medical regimen. We're working through physical therapy. He'll always have long-term issues due to a genetic condition, but we are going to help him grow. Part of my many-time career-changing journey was I used to be a physical therapist assistant. My wife used to be a special education teacher. We have the baby we're supposed to have, and we know that we'll help him get to the highest levels he's able to achieve as we walk through. But it has been tremendously
That's a really beautiful way to look at it, and just my heart and love goes to your child and to you and your wife. And
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of parents have kids that have serious medical needs because we're able to save them now. Whereas not that long ago, they would probably not make it in childbirth. They couldn't make it past a few days. So, yeah, you're not alone. A lot of people are like that. But I mean, that's a lot of that's a really big fear, that we have children that have big needs. And so anyway, just kudos and love to you and your wife.
No, it's been an illuminating journey, and it's I think everybody right now, if I could give one simple message of how we deal with the stresses and anxieties, because some of the things happening are the playbook, right? The flood the zone strategy of overwhelming information constantly is to wear us down. And there's a saying I had to hold to when he was having these seizures every 4 days, and when I had some other stuff from birth. The person who suffers before they have to suffers more than they have to. So it's okay to run the tape and plan and do projections. But once you've done that to make yourself safe, you got to take a breath, step back and go, okay, where am I right now? Because if those things don't come true, I will waste all of my life and energy in negative. So I'm taking positive action to avoid those.
Yeah, anxiety is built to help prevent emergencies, but then we get stuck in it and we let it hurt our lives. And
Absolutely.
so you're saying you're able to, okay, we have to do these things to keep, your son safe, but then we've done it. We got to calm the crap down now.
Yeah, and same thing for the current political state right now. Whether it's speaking out, coming on a podcast, whether it's serving in your community, running for office, starting an apparel brand like I have my Band Together brand, you find a way to serve your community and you align with that plan so you can ethically be the person you want to be. And then you reel it back and go, I can't change what's happening at the top level right now. I can speak out. I can continue to engage in political spaces. I can have conversations with friends, go to dinner with people. I'm really loving one-on-one connections with certain friends and family members. But I want to touch on things I'm using to try to help Republicans see why they should be somewhat concerned. So going back to the April conversation.
Okay, so this is to Republicans. Yeah. You're a Republican. Yes. This is a message to Republicans why we should be concerned about this government happening today.
My first little flashlight moment was when I heard in April he was having the conversation with President Bukele of El Salvador, who was actually the self-acknowledged world's self-coolest dictator, right? When we were sending the undocumented.
So he's having a meeting with a dictator.
So he's having the meeting, and in that he acknowledges out loud that he was having Attorney General Pam Bondi investigate if there's a way to legally deport American-born citizens and naturalized citizens. And in that, he was like, but only the worst of the worst criminals. And when I think about authoritarian slides, one of the things where sometimes my friends on the right will accuse me, you're soft on crime. I can promise you, I am not soft on crime. I am pro protection of all people's rights, which means I have to include criminal rights, because on the authoritarian slide of history, what happens is the ruling party makes an out group. They focus on criminals, and slowly you can expand who is and is not a criminal. So criminals are entitled to due process. They're entitled to these certain things. And so if you suddenly say that someone who's committed a bad enough crime can have their citizenship removed, then you've now said that citizenship and all of your rights are not guaranteed by the Constitution, and for me, given by the inalienable Creator. That may not be everyone's feeling, but that is mine. Like these rights are ours.
So you're saying, wait a minute, this is a sign of authoritarian.
You can't take that away.
When you take away due process, when you take away the checks and balances to make sure this person with brown skin actually is a criminal that is harming America and should be deported. You're seeing alarm bells of whoops, there's a step missing here.
Well, and when you say the idea constitutionally, I don't think there's a way to do it. When I've talked to other Republicans, they go, oh, he's just saying bluster. He'll never be able to do it. At this point, he takes a path of, I will do it, and then I'll force the courts to reverse it.
Right.
And that's the path. So I trust that if he wanted to, he would attempt to do that. But what I would say, and what I would try to posit to every Republican, and I think everybody on the left would get it, you cannot strip a natural-born citizen of their rights. And to denaturalize, which he talks about a lot right now, I'm glad that process does exist in the system. It's literally how we got rid of Nazi party members who lied to become citizens, right?
Right.
So denaturalization is a good tool, but it shouldn't be applied to people. Like that's the thing where he's having discussions about if people came here and started committing crime, could you denaturalize them? I'm a recovering addict for a long time. I know humans fall down, have hard times. I don't want two-class citizenry. If you become naturalized, because Republicans forever have said, hey, I believe in immigration. I just believe in doing it the right way legally. And that's the same stance, but you can't tell me that when you're pulling people out of
This is the
courts,
problem
right?
that I've learned through my show I have with Republican Christopher Machen. When he tells me his side of ICE, he says, we're doing it. President Trump's doing the right thing. He's stopping the criminals. And I'm like, you're not seeing the same news we're seeing. We have legit people we know in Indiana. They're our friends getting taken in front of their children and getting thrown in some creepy prison for a couple days before they're released. And I'm like, are you not seeing that? No, he is not seeing that. He's seeing Trump doing a good job on crime. So just that there helps me to have compassion for my Republican friends, because we're so angry. How could you not care about these people? Well, they're legit not seeing the stuff we're seeing.
One of the things that broke my heart as a Christian that really, again, made me continue to feel like if I'm going to be a red letter Christian, so the words of Christ Christian, then I'm going to have to step up and say things, because I would see people with like Jesus in their bio making jokes about feeding immigrants to alligators. No Christian should think that if Jesus sat beside them, that they would ever make that joke, because that's how the dehumanization of individuals starts. It starts with really bad humor. And so in those spaces, it's important that generally, and I know that the left, where I disagree, would be a fully open borders policy, right? I know that's not the majority left, but there is a portion of your party that would go, hey, we believe in fully open borders. That's an opinion anyone can have. I would argue that a country can't be a country without borders.
Right.
But I would argue that President Obama and President Biden and President Bush and President Clinton all did a ton of deportation. In fact, I didn't know this.
Right.
The IRA is a law that was passed that does actually abridge an element of due process, so undocumented immigrants who are in the country for less than 2 years get a amended due process. Now, I would have probably voted against that had I been not 11 years old, but that is the law. That and the president in the past, that used to be under other presidents 2 weeks and within 100 miles of the border. The president has the purview to extend that to the full country, which he has, and 2 years to the full time frame.
So something I'm realizing about you, Ben, that I want to bring you on every once in a while is I want to ask law questions. You seem very knowledgeable about history, law, the way other presidents have acted. And that's very helpful for people, because history might not always repeat itself, but it rhymes, you know.
It absolutely has a pattern. It's cyclical.
And so you could help me know the law of things. So kudos to you for being so smart about that. Also, I think some people know this. Before Biden's term ended, he tried to get immigration bill passed that would have helped with this. And the Republicans were on board with it until Trump said, no, vote no. And then they blindly followed him and voted no. So we could have fixed some of these problems before
it's really frustrating.
The election. And that's when you're putting people before common good. You're putting leaders, and you're not putting America first, or even just human beings first. You're putting blindly following a person, and it's hurting so many people in the country, regardless of how you voted.
Well, here's a stance where I don't know if you I think you saw it. I ended up, of all the things, in a Facebook engagement with our Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith.
Now, I did not see this. Please tell us.
Yes, I had said, I'm getting really tired of this guy's propaganda, because he says things like not all people have due process. And I need anyone listening, Republican, Democrat, or otherwise, to understand that as a constitutionalist, the law is very specific in the Constitution, where it calls out what a citizen's rights are, which he is right. There are certain rights that non-citizens don't get. But when it calls all persons are entitled to due process and that cannot be abridged, that's very important. In the 14th Amendment, it clarifies, within our jurisdiction. So it's a pretty cut and dry thing. The Supreme Court's ruled on it. So I had to have an engagement with him around, here are things you're saying. Here's things where you're causing an enemy,ization, using words. For me, I didn't understand why in the first presidency.
And did he write back to you?
He did. He didn't respond to my second one. I've continued to implore him to get together and have a meal with me, because this is where I try to start from.
As a woman, I don't recommend that. But I think you're safe.
Well, I think the challenge I have is I don't know everybody's story from start to finish. I grew up in rural areas, and one of the challenges to growing up in a rural area that I think sometimes people from cities and people from diverse backgrounds can't understand is the subtle dangers of living in a culturally and ethnically homogenous environment.
You're so right.
My experience is that people aren't bad.
Where the people haven't gone to other places across the world and seen how we're so much the same, regardless of whether we speak the same language or practice the same religion. Just denying that. And that's in Harrison County. That's a large amount of people where I live. They're not traveling to other countries and seeing, because they don't have the money to. They can't afford it.
May not be their interest. Farmers don't usually have a lot of time.
My family's from Harrison County. Farm every day. You can't leave
since
for
forever,
2 weeks,
right?
And so you're so right. So we have these views. So it's really easy to put a little fake propaganda fear thing about other people, and you don't know because you haven't gone out and saw that that's fake. So you believe it. And Micah Beckwith, just so everybody knows, Micah Beckwith is a pastor for Life Church. And he is very good at getting up on a pulpit and preaching propaganda that's very not Christian, not Jesus, and saying in a way that people are like, he's the pastor, we should listen to him, we should agree. And so he's dividing the Republican Party in Indiana right now because a bunch of scandals are coming out about him, the other pastor that's with his churches, that pastor's son. There's all this stuff coming out. We've even reported on it in Project Next with Tom LoBianco. And so just this man right here that has so much power in our state government doing this propaganda is already terrifying enough.
And I'm gonna illustrate with this. I don't know where he comes from. If he's come from this insular family, these beliefs might be true and deep to his heart. He may be so convinced he's right that for him it's not propaganda. Because again, everybody's the hero of their story.
That's a really good point. He either knows
he's confused or he's malicious.
Yeah,
and I can't tell.
Malicious and he wants to control people, or he really believes it. I kind of tend to think he's malicious because he's hurt friends of mine. He's gotten friends of mine arrested at his town halls. And then I've seen videos of him where like one woman was putting food in a food pantry at night, and he came out and harassed her, and she filmed it and put it out. So I've seen his words about women. The way he thinks about women is alarming to me. So I don't recommend, honestly, women getting involved with him, because he does seem to go out of his way to harm us. So I think he's malicious, but you don't have to think that. But I've just seen enough stuff that
I want to hope. So I want to believe. I'm not toxically positive. I am sometimes strategically naive. And so I want to believe in the best in others until given evidence. So I do not believe, I believe he is acting in a way that is harmful to people and is not aligned with our Constitution, right? He didn't answer when I said, you've said that you honor the Constitution. That's your oath. If you know that the Supreme Court has said all people get due process, why are you saying they're not? And why are you treating them alien invaders? And does that make them more likely to treat people as neighbors, your flock as neighbors, or as enemies? Because we can still, this is my stance, we can still believe that people who are here illegally need to be removed. But I'm a data and analytics guy. I used to be a physical therapist assistant. I believe in the evidence-based practice method. So when I go online and I look at ICE's own numbers that say like less than 20% of people are violent criminals that they've detained, and only this amount have convictions of any kind, and only this amount have charges, and we're looking at 50% of people being not. It was not always a non-Republican stance to believe that we might have to look at the problem and not kind of an ethno-statist ideology solution, right? To say Ronald Reagan gave an amnesty. I'm not saying, I've never been able to get to the point where I could say I would believe in a full path to citizenship, but I can darn sure say the visa process, if we have industry that relies on these people's labor, a great way to protect them is saying, get a background check, get documented, and you can stay and work in force if you're a positive contributing member of the community. I'm not saying that's the path to go, but I'd love to have that conversation, because now it's all everyone must go. And I think that comes from a place that isn't extremely helpful, because it does do maximum harm.
And we need their work. The immigrant community does jobs that a lot of Americans do not want to do, and they're not paid well. I'd rather they all get paid well personally, and we help give them
that's the danger, right? Sometimes it's a conversation.
But they help society. Just this morning, I had groceries delivered at 8 in the morning, groceries delivered in the snow. And this older man in his 60s pulled up, and I quickly put on warmer pants because in my workout pants, and I ran out to help him. And he spoke Spanish, and he got out his phone and spoke Spanish and translated it so we could talk. And he was the sweetest man and he left, and I'm like, oh, I hope he's okay. I don't know anything about his background. He just delivered my family groceries. He helped save me several hours of free time. And it's just like, what are we doing? Because we're convincing people that sweet man that brought me groceries is supposed to be scary. And it's terrifying. And
Republicans, and myself included, it's easy to be, this is the law, like I said, which is why it is not a wrong stance legally to say that all people that are in the country illegally need to be deported, but it is to say it's a very ineffective tool for what we're doing, and it's causing maximum harm. And beyond that, I mean, when we've gone to the idea of mass people with low accountability, no badge presentation, when you have Kash Patel finally saying what I've been saying for months, you're going to get copycats, you're going to get violent offenses, you're creating a public menace, you can't do these things. I argue predominantly with methodology, right? If we were deporting people like President Obama or President Biden or President Bush or President Clinton, the same issues arising, I think, even for the left wouldn't be the case. It's we're doing this in a dragnet style. We're doing this without strong conviction to it. When you have
we can't label
American
one
citizens,
group of people and declare them the bad guys. Like,
again, if I believe in the Constitution, I can't be in favor of somebody else's rights being abridged because I don't look like an at-risk group. Like, now, if you want to say that all Irish immigrants and Scottish immigrants and other predominantly white countries are now going to have the same treatment, so you're going to come and harass me, that's almost a fair equivalence. And I'm going to be, okay, I guess we can kind of use race as long as you're targeting all of us equally, but that's not what we're doing. Brown citizens who've been
the brown citizens, the ones that look like they're from Mexico and South America,
and again,
particularly right now.
My family are immigrants from Germany here in Harrison County from like 1870, and some people have been in parts of the American Southwest. Their families have been here since the end of the Mexican-American War when they were allowed to stay in their land and become American citizens. So they have been here longer. So it seems ridiculous to me that just because you happen to look like somebody from the targeted group, you could be getting harassed. And we see a lot of bad behavior. And so I can't turn a blind eye to it because it's convenient. If you were being targeted, it would be it's hard. My emotions would be sad. And I don't know that I could justify it to Christ sitting across.
We'll move on from this topic. We should do a show on ICE if you want to, because you seem very knowledgeable about the law. So it would be nice to pick your brain on this and talk about it through a moral standpoint. But before we move on, I just want to mention my 15-year-old is taking Spanish. He's on his 3rd year of Spanish. He's getting pretty good at it. He's got a good memory that I don't have. And he says that if he's watching YouTube in English, he gets ads recruiting him to work for ICE. And then he also has to listen to Spanish music videos because he gets quizzed over the Spanish music video that he knows what all the words mean. And when he's listening to that, he gets ads saying ICE is going to come for them. They better turn themselves in now. My son, my 15-year-old on YouTube is seeing this. I think both of those things happened to him last week or the week before. And I am very alarmed that my 15-year-old cannot watch YouTube and do his homework without this political issue coming at him on the extremes. That is a little alarming to me. So you might think that us white people are fine from this, but they're trying to manipulate my 15-year-old right now.
Absolutely.
And he's just doing his homework.
They have a high degree of desire.
Like really smart. So he's just like, look, he watches YouTube videos on how to do stuff and learning about stuff, and he's getting that. So it's just what a world we live in. We've got to stop this. We have to call it out. We need Republicans like you saying this is wrong on a constitutional level. And we shouldn't put it as a Democrat and Republican. We should put it as a human issue, and let's call it out and let's fix it. Let's stop being divided. We need Republicans and Democrats to come together and say, hey, let's stop this. Let's work together and do something humane.
That's why I keep the focus so deeply on the Constitution, because when we look at the rights enshrined for citizens, it's very important to protect citizens' rights. And one of the challenges to having engaging conversations with people is I'm a particularly empathetic human being. Not everybody is. And that, in some ways, that's by design. Are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yes.
Perfect. And for the audience that doesn't know, it's a kind of framework of, hey, as this pyramid goes up, if you can't like have food and shelter, you don't really get to think about things.
If you don't have your basic things, you can't think about the other things. You can't
climb up to like actualization and doing the things you want to do the most. So,
and I see that with my neighbors that legit are just trying to stay housed.
Exactly.
They don't have time as everything to listen to a Project Next show and worry about this and this. They're trying to put food on their table and pay their energy bill and pay their rent, and it's so like, I'm not going to go judge them. I'm going to be like, I'm going to do everything I can to help you, but it's so hard,
It's how can we love folks? So it is for me, it goes back to when people are concerned, and I don't want to make people afraid, but I do try to help people think about, since it's not affecting you, can I get them to think in a frame of mind? Because when I see that it's coming for X rights, history teaches me those things become corrosive and eroded. So if we don't protect here, it's important for me to protect that person at the edge to ensure that it never affects me. And so I try to speak the language of basically the Socratic method. For those that don't know, it's really just asking a bunch of good why questions. I do it to myself all the time, but when I have a conversation with somebody, how do we build better bridges? You and Chad Snow on one of your other episodes, plug for that. Great guy, doing great things in the community.
December 10th is the event for the Have Conversations That Matter. If you live in Southern Indiana, go to Do Something Southern Indiana's website. And
please come out.
And come to that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Keep going.
so it is that idea of how can you ask people questions they may not be asking themselves, and don't just do it to lead them through a conversation. Do it to learn. Do it from curiosity. Start from a point of
Yes.
curiosity
Be
about what somebody else
curious.
believes.
Don't
You
just
don't have to
assume you
agree.
know everything. Like, I don't know
Imagine
everything.
you don't have to agree with everyone. This kind of goes. It
Don't
ties
take
into
it personal. Ben, this is what I've been having lately with the left. I get, I don't know, an average of like 10 to 30 comments a day telling me I'm wrong. And I'm just like, don't take me personally. I'm trying to build bridges here. I'm trying to open up a dialogue. I'm admitting I don't know everything. You don't know everything, but you and I can learn from each other, you know? And it's like, stop taking me personal. Stop taking other people's opinions personal and focus on the common good. I don't have to agree with you on 100% of things to work with you. You know,
absolutely.
clearly we don't agree on everything because I call myself a Democrat, you call yourself a Republican. There's going to be
Absolutely.
some things we disagree with, but I don't care. You're amazing. You're a
Well,
great person. You've
oh
been
my
through a
gosh, thank
lot.
you so much.
I'm going to learn from you and you might learn something from me. Like, so to the left that like to tell me I'm wrong and and you know, don't take me calm down. Let that control go. You better control Sarah Blessing on Project Next. You know, let that go and open up your mind a little bit to maybe you're not right about everything.
My
Maybe the
encouragement
left isn't right about everything.
my encouragement to both sides. And so if, I feel grateful that thank you for providing me a platform where I get to talk to people who may not normally hear me. If we can look at each other through the lens of some volume of compassion, love, which is very hard right now because you're seeing some people on both sides act really ugly. Great example. I met a young man out at a bar recently. I don't drink, but I was there for the vibes. I was reading a book. He was like talking to me and he's like, yeah, I'm an active communist. I was like, cool. Let me start by framing the conversation. Are you a put people in gulags communist or are you like general ideology? He's like, no, it's wrong to put people in gulags. I'd have had the conversation either way, mind you.
He said
But
he
if he
was for putting people in.
he was not. He said
He
that
was
would be
not.
wrong.
Okay, sorry.
So I said, okay, I would have had the conversation either way, mind you. I just would have known if you believe in the political violence of putting people in gulags, I have to be a little more concerned about my safety than if you know that that's wrong. But I'm going to have the conversation.
Like as a woman, I also have to be more concerned than you do in a conversation because I've had conversations with strong, healthy white guys saying they would go up and talk to them this way, and I'm like, oh, I can't do that because you're stronger than me, and I got to make sure I don't upset you. So like, I'm really good at making sure people like me and are not scared of me. Like when I go up and talk to people, I'm not confrontational at all because I'm always thinking of my safety because I go out, Ben, and talk to people and I'm by myself, me as a woman. Wow. So I've really learned most people are wonderful. I've not once had a scary interaction ever. And I've talked to tens of thousands of people at this point in our community.
That's amazing. Well,
but I don't go up to them. I don't go up to them and be like, Republican fascist, da da da. Because then, yeah, my safety could be, it could be a problem. So it's just the way you initiate it. It's different for you as a white guy as it is for me, which is interesting to me.
That makes a lot of sense.
But it doesn't mean that I can't go and talk to people. I'll go up to somebody with a Make America Great Again hat, a Trump picture with the fist up in the air. I'll go talk to that person, but I'm not starting with, can't believe you voted for Trump. You know?
How do we see each other with love and compassion out the gate, right? Because I want to believe, and I've met some people that really are kind of malicious and nefarious, but it is much fewer and further between.
It's so much fewer than we think.
So...
And I just want to comment on this. The MAGA person that's wearing the shirt with the Trump with the thing and the MAGA hat, that's a shield of protection because they're scared of Democrats. We have to realize that. They're doing it to be like, if you're a Democrat, don't talk to me. I'm terrified of you. And then on the other side, we do it too. We're putting shirts on where like, if you voted against my rights, we can't be friends. And we're doing it too. We put things all over us to show who we are, to protect ourselves from the other side hurting us. So if we realize that MAGA guy's wearing that MAGA hat because he's scared of Democrats, it helps you to realize he's scared. I need to show him I'm not scary because he's been told I'm a monster.
It's so true, and it's so like that's why I actually really like the Make America Constitutional Again. It says MACA. It's really printed on my shirts big, and it's been fun to watch because I've seen people on the left look at it, and I did it as a brain hack. They see it and they read MAGA because that's what they're conditioned to, and then they go, "Hey, what's that?" Because I was at a protest up in Indianapolis, protesting JD Vance being in town to discuss the redistricting, and somebody goes,
that.
"Hey,
that's awesome.
What does your shirt say?" And so I watched somebody go from so mad to very curious. And I've seen the same thing with people in MAGA. Hey, that's my, what do you mean by that? Right?
Yeah, but that's another way they wear the shirts. It's to find their tribe. Who
exactly. I know who's like me.
They're scared of a group of the population. How do they find their trusted friends?
These are the people that think like me. And this is so human, right? Tribalism is the most human thing.
It's a survival technique. You need others to survive. Yep. Thousands of years ago, hunters and gatherers, it's a basic thing. Whereas now we've evolved, but if we're full of anxiety and panic, we haven't evolved. We're right back to that,
Absolutely. And I
want to talk about your brand.
Absolutely.
Can we talk about your band, togetherbrand.com, that people can go to right now and buy like a cool shirt? Can you explain what this is?
Shirts and yes. Okay. So I have my Make America Constitutional Again shirts that are on there because that was really what I started with. People go, "I like your shirt." I printed it myself.
Saying that's a conversation starter, like Chad Snow was saying. Just wearing
it breaks
that shirt.
The echo chamber, right? It's curious.
Constitution. I support the Constitution.
And both sides, it's a very bipartisan thing. Now, then we have to have a conversation about what that means. But it's if we frame from that, it gives me a stable, nonpartisan place to start with people because it gets people out of their comfort zone intellectually.
So if you want the MAGA shirt, Make America Constitutional Again, you can get it on bandtogetherbrand.com.
And so the band together is obviously for me a play on if we don't band together, we might all be banned, B-A-N-N-E-D.
I like that.
Right. And this has been an idea in my head for about 15, 16 years. So it just happened to be a time politically, topically, and also with the advent of print on demand and AI, I was able to more quickly
that's so true.
move into the space. So like this shirt I'm wearing has Cassius Clay, who's really a regional kind of hero. He was a notorious abolitionist. He was the son of slave owning
Wasn't
people.
that Muhammad Ali's name? I'm so confused.
Muhammad Ali is named after Cassius Marcellus Clay, who is the gentleman on this shirt. It's his dueling club because he was notorious for getting into duels. I don't believe in political violence, but at one point, men, being the unique creatures we are, felt like the most civil way to settle our disputes was to turn around and shoot each other.
Or shoot each other.
Okay?
Yeah. I mean, so Alexander Hamilton.
This shirt is
yeah.
This shirt is about being willing to be principled in a time that it's difficult. Because, and I want to say this to both sides. Both sides of the aisle have a reason to feel scared. Democrats were assassinated in Minnesota. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I am terribly sad. Like, I'm not going to cry right now because I won't let myself, but I am terribly sad that that's the state we're in. But I need everybody to know we have never not been in a state where it has been dangerous to be a person of character with high value and to speak peace. I believe that we have to all bend the arc of time towards justice. We can look back. John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr., Freddie Hampton, all these people assassinated in a different period. One of my favorite shirts, you can't really see it clear back there, but it's got Socrates on it, and it says, "I can't teach anybody what to think. I can only teach them how to think." But Socrates in that is holding a cup. For me, that's metaphorically his cup of hemlock that the state forced him to drink to poison himself, right? He died by a death penalty. Every thinker, every person,
so dark.
Everything along this arc of history, it's always been dangerous to be willing to step up and speak out for the right things. People have been jailed and pushed aside. So it's really built to be a timeless brand that reinforces that idea that,
I like that.
Don't be scared. You're in good company. You're in good historical company, and you're going to be in good company together.
These are the people I want on Project Next because I've had to do some reorganizing. I want the nonviolent people. So Rich Gen Zero, who spent time in prison. He's a pastor now for a violent crime while in prison, dedicated his life to nonviolence. It doesn't mean you always have to. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but you dedicate your life to nonviolence. I have also dedicate my life to nonviolence. And that's the right way to go. We usually, most of us recognize what Martin Luther King Jr. was saying was right. But then when we apply it to today's time, they're like, however, they want to like throw in their times when we should. It's like, no. Nonviolence is the way to get out of this, even when the other side's scary. I get it.
So one of the things people don't know, and if you need to take a look, during the rise of Trump had considered myself a member of the alt-right. Now, That I thought was just the funny memes and the not being a neocon, right? So I was like,
so
okay,
interesting.
that's
So
what
you
this is.
considered yourself to be the alt-right.
For a moment, until I
Wow.
learned that the center of, because the alt-right really got a lot of big push in the emerging digital space in Facebook from like funny memes and Pepe memes and this kind of stuff. So it was counterculture. But then I learned that the center of that was a gentleman named Richard Spencer. And Richard Spencer was a genuine ethno-nationalist who believed in a white race philosophy and a Eurocentric ideology. And so you can go back and find information about that. But at that point, I realized, oh, I'm not what that is, right? I believe that all people are created equal. I believe that God
What
loves
time
all of
period
us.
was this? I'm just curious. So what time period?
20,
what year?
The 2011, 20, wait, hold on.
So it was a while ago.
Yeah,
it was over 10 years ago. It was before
this was over
Trump.
10.
It was before Trump.
So the alt-right movement was attached to Trump's rise to power.
Okay.
Right. So if you, and I would love separately from the show, I'd be happy to like kind of help you see the timeline because I've got some old stuff because it'll make it
episodes
sense.
we could do because it would be interesting to track the
kind of some of that.
You could give the history of it.
And because it was not something I wanted to be a part of once I saw. I was like, hey guys, the center of our onion is rotten with actual deep cuts, like people doing like Nazi salutes humans. And I was like, that's not me. I will never be that. This is all to say I can understand the emotional context behind Punch a Nazi, which is Richard Spencer. I brought him up because he once got punched on the street. People were like, yeah, he punched a Nazi because he really was very close to one, if not actually one. But I would go back to nonviolence is that we can't do that. Growing up in Corden, in Indiana, I watched the Klan in outfit stand in front of the courthouse and say their most hateful, horrible garbage. And me and my friends as teenagers.
Oh my gosh.
I would have graduated in 2003. So this is 2001, 2002.
Wow.
And me and my friends would drive by and scream obscenities at them. And so for me, when I think about rights, my rights end where your nose begins, Sarah. I can say basically whatever it is as long as it's not an active threat of violence. Same thing. So they were exercising their right, and it was ugly and horrible and hideous, and we exercised our right by speaking out. When we do harm to people, and I understand, I'm talking to people on the left, I understand the emotions behind wanting to do physical harm. You only reinforce and entrench one as an example of why that side of the aisle is so violent and can't be trusted, why they are your enemy. I felt sad. I know very, very, very many good, wonderful Democrats who denounced Charlie Kirk's assassination, and I felt really sad that some Democrats took the bait and fomented the idea where they were like, well, he got what he deserved. And when you say that, I think sometimes people forget a lot of people believe like that. So if you say he got what he deserved, then the right really does feel, and I'm saying this as somebody who's on the right,
you're so right.
Separates that out. Right. That party then goes, they really do want me dead. They really would be okay with it because I believe things like
worse.
That.
It makes the violence
it reinforces
worse.
And reentrenches. So we all have to be
the violence, and we have
huge
to do all
on
we
condemning
yes.
active violence. We have to pursue the American ideal of using our speech to power.
The Charlie Kirk thing, I have a friend of mine that I lost after that incident who was a Republican because they went full to that side and started really following the fears that side was saying about the Democrats at that time. And you got to realize most Democrats were denouncing the violence.
Absolutely.
Most of us were doing it, but there were a few that weren't because as humans, we're not perfect. And there's bad people on both sides. There's people that make mistakes on both sides. So that event and anybody that was saying terrible things about it proved the Republicans that our side is bad and violent and scary. And that's what they're constantly being bombarded with. They're being bombarded every single violent thing that a Democrat does to anybody else or mean, nasty words. It is being shown on repeat on the far to the right propaganda stuff. And so we have to realize it just fuels, it's putting, logs in the fire of the fear and the violence. It's making the violence worse. And I get that we're scared. I'm also scared, but we got to look past what's the goal here. The goal here is having a society where our children can grow up safely. They can get a good education, good health care, work a job that pays for their bills and pays for them to have a decent life. If we want that, we have to collectively put aside our fears and come together, not take things so personally, not judge everybody, You know, like I bet people could judge you just on the things you've said today. They could judge you and hate you because of your past actions. But your past actions have led you here, and you're an amazing, incredible human today because of your past. And I think we should look at it that way. I'm really glad we're having this conversation today. If some of those things wouldn't happen to me and wouldn't happen to you, we wouldn't be talking right now. So I really like the way you're phrasing why we need to be nonviolent. I think it's very beautiful, and I appreciate you phrasing it that way. Thank you.
Well, it means everything, because I would never ask a lady her age, so I will say I am 40 and I was born in 1985. And as a arc of time, I've watched this. I was the last era of analog and the
You're
first
so
era of
wise
pure
for
digital.
40, but it's clearly
Thank
because
you.
you've lived a life. I'm 44. I'm almost 45 in a couple weeks.
So we lived through the rise of this element. So we talk about how things are broken into echo chambers in the algorithm, right? So we watched the rise of the internet, where it did bring people together. It did connect people. We saw the early Facebook
there's
and
good
MySpace.
and bad from the internet. It's
brought things
complicated.
together. But when they found out how to monetize it, it became about the attention economy. And to your point, fear and outrage incentivize the economy. Chad had a great lesson on how you put different. So go back and watch that episode.
Yeah.
He talked about using the algorithm to your advantage, and that's what I've tried to strategically do. Something I did I made breakfast at a local hospital in Clarksville when I was in my 20s, and I got access to the remote control. And so half the day I put on Fox News, half the day I would put on CNN, so I could get all the news run and then go, hey, what are the four things people agree on? Hey, there's my facts, because everything else is spin designed to keep you in, again, 24-hour news cycles. They're driven by ad revenue. If they don't keep you outraged intentionally, they lose you. So again, we have to be better than the system that is seeking to confine our minds, and we have to intentionally outreach. I don't know if you've seen.
And how do you start a media company, Project Next Media, where your basis is stopping that, and your main form of getting people to watch it is on these platforms? That has been the equation I'm always thinking about every day. I need to get something that gets people to want to stay, but I'm also promoting unity and compassion, and
good
the
things.
other side isn't bad. So it's hard. My friends, I have friends that I've had to stop hanging out with because they're so extreme. Their platforms have hundreds of thousands of followers. Well, I don't have that much on Project Next, because they're spouting the fear stuff and they're getting the eyeballs. And I'm so frustrated by that. I wish platforms would change their algorithm, but then they might not make as much money, and that makes me upset. That
as we talk more,
I think we should put the collective good ahead of that. You know,
you will hear me talk about incentive structures, right? I've transitioned into technology sector, and I work with teams developing software, and really when it works with teams and process and people management and delivery, it's about incentive structure. So if you align to the wrong incentive structure, which in this case is revenue via attention time, it's always going to skew to those people. My encouragement would be that your viewers and followers will be greater impact makers than those following the other things, because they are drawn to the fear that kind of keeps them isolated. You're going to attract the doers and the people who are pursuing reality.
The fear people are too scared to actually get out in their community and talk to people, because they think that stuff is true. So they think their neighbors are terrifying, when I'm saying most of those people are nice. Even the ones with there's like a guy with a giant MAGA sign that puts terrible things out in Palmyra. He's a nice guy, actually. And it's like, so
make my repeat again sign guy.
I get what you're saying. You're saying the people watching Project Next are actually not scared to get out in the community.
Yeah,
and
you're going to build a
right,
much more impactful. So if you judge yourself by impact rather than the outcome measure of how many followers you've attracted, that will be hard. But I love what you're doing, again, because you are attracting the people who are really going to change, and it takes longer to grow that. But as we get out there in the community, I'm looking forward to, how do we have a bipartisan barbecue? How do we get those? Like, you're one of those people that I'm like,
there's a basketball game. Ben, you should come to this. There's a basketball game coming up. I need to do an episode about it. I got to talk to Tim. I forgot about it. It's with Evan Stoner. He is a Democrat city council member in Jeff, I think. And he's putting together a basketball game with Republicans versus Democrats. But everybody that comes to sit, there's no cheering. There's no Democrat, one side Republican. Everybody comes and sits together to show everybody working together.
What a fun way to promote.
He's going to be the coach. Again. He's going to be the coach for the Democrats. And I want to come and maybe like do a little show if I can get away.
Oh my gosh.
So we're doing this in Southern Indiana. what you're
I think
talking
we
about.
can be
And like
templated
you and I
to the
met
whole nation.
we met 2 times. You were on a Project Next show. You were on the No Kings Protest and Cordon
Thank you
show.
for that.
Yeah. And so we're actually meeting the community. I got connected with Chad Snow from another woman that's fighting life-wise. She connected us. Like, I'm meeting all these amazing people. Just today on my phone, I was connected with some more awesome people that I'm going to talk with. So
I
you're
get
right.
goosebumps.
All
How
this
much
good
fun
stuff
is
is
it?
happening.
So I think what we want to do as a unity unit across all spectrums, how do we make it a party so fun people don't want to miss it? Because civics have lost third places, they've lost spaces to be engaged.
We're all so busy. We're all like our kids are in
100 hustles,
activities. The hustle. We're so
T-shirt
busy.
brand, full-time job, medically complex kid. We're all hustling. How do we make time and space for each other again? And so those are the things. Like, I'm so excited to talk to you more about these types of events.
And what you're saying
because I love hearing about that.
What you're saying is this needs to be priority number one. If we actually want our kids to have a safe place to live and grow here in America, we need to step aside some of the other things, put those down for now, and focus on the unity events.
Social fabric first.
We need to do this.
We've
got to fix this first. And then that kind of teaches our children how to be civically engaged as well. So that's hard when our phones and our news sources are trying to keep us glued to it. That's hard when we're really busy with all our life activities. But you're right. We all need to step up and put it more as a priority. This basketball game that's coming up, that event.
Well, here's the thing: people are gonna. I'm gonna make a promise, and I seldomly do this. If you take a moment to schedule some time for something enjoyable like that, you are gonna have more fun than you thought, and you're gonna remember where you actually recharge your batteries at.
And you're going to learn that the community is not as scary as you've been told. That's the most important one. Just getting out in real time.
One a-hole does not make an entire group.
Right.
So yeah, you will run into people who are sometimes a-holes, and it's gonna be okay. But if those of us who are willing to do the work, show the example. If we show the example, people will come along. We have to believe that we lead by example. We don't lead from the back, we lead from the front. So to your point about this, one of the things we touched on in that No King's Day protest is this idea of an 80%, what I'm calling caucus. I'm still forming this in my head, but I want to get that together to go, how do I facilitate meetings for a living? I want to get, I've been a butterfly. I've gone to the Harrison County Tea Party meetings. I've gone, and I consider myself a member of Do Something Southern Indiana. I love it. A great nonpartisan organization. Truly,
I love Do Something. Great.
I know you.
Indivisible.
Indivisible gave me a table, and that's what forced me to open my LLC and get all my stuff aligned to even do this business. Like, hey, you want to sell your shirts at our thing?
Yeah, the Indivisible people rock. Yeah,
I did want to give you one minor correction. They are a self-acknowledged progressive group, but they are lovely, and they're trying to make an inclusive space for everyone who's willing to be peaceful.
It is. It's mostly Democrats. It's mostly liberals. But have they been welcoming to you when you came and said you were?
I told them, I was like, look, well, they saw my shirts. I said, so you're aware I'm a Republican, but I believe in these things, and these are my stance. They're like, yeah, by all means, come out.
I was just so happy because you did that to me when we first met. That's what you said, and I'm like, it's so amazing you're here. We need so many more of you. Like, I was freaking out with glee. So I would imagine that's how you're treated with the most part.
So far, I've been really grateful because I think the reason I went to the first No Kings protests was because there was a lot there was pockets of filmed violence in California at the time that those protests were happening. So I said, what's going to happen here? What's my region doing? I'm not going to judge the nation's response with these protests. I'm going to come see my community. I went to Cordon, New Albany, and then to Louisville, and got to see all three in the same day because they were staggered. And I met so many lovely people, and my experience was not one of fear and division. I'm sure if we sat down and talked through every single issue, there would be points you'd be like, man, I kind of think Ben's an a-hole on this, but hopefully you'd still love me at the broad, right? Because that's going to be things like, wow,
you clearly identified with it because I met you at the No Kings 2 protest, and you were protesting with everybody.
Absolutely. Well, you can't, again, going back to, you can't have an overly strong federal government. If I had been at the founding, I would have liked to have thought I would have been an anti-federalist because I would have wanted people protected, which is where we get the Bill of Rights, right? That when people talk about the Constitution, they're not talking about the articles largely. They are, that is the Constitution. They're important. When people think about our First Amendment right, our Second Amendment right, Third, Fourth, right, we think about the amendments that enshrined our rights, not the rote rigmarole of governance. So again, I can't think of an overly large government. You can't have, appreciated Stephen Miller saying the quiet part out loud when he said he believed the president had plenary authority. I have a lot of words, but I had to look that one up. It basically means unilateral, like unimpeded authority. Like, I know people on my side go, we don't have a king. This is silly. For my people on the right, if anybody sees this, when I go to No King's protest, it is because I oppose the expansion of federal power over the other branches. I believe in 3 co-equal branches of government. On my Make
the
America.
propaganda, the fake things that the right thought about the protests were very amusing to me. Like, they thought that if we protested, Trump wasn't going to be president again. They're like, look, Trump's still president. I'm like, what do you think
That's not
doing? Like, I don't understand your.
It's really bad circular logic in the group in that pocket, right? I would say that dimension of it has become more of a regressive. Like, I've always said, I believe in a woman's right to vote, but now you have large churches, one, even our Secretary of Defense.
I meet people that say they don't vote because they're a woman. It's like,
well, but his church has actually said out loud on CNN that they believe in repealing the 19th Amendment, right? These are the things that people would tell me Republicans believe. I'd say, no, we don't. That's nonsense, because no one I've ever met had believed those things. So you got to also remember, when you're meeting Republicans, there's a lot of flavors of us. And so when you go, you're bad, or you believe in authoritarianism, you believe in XYZ, we tend to find our tribes even within the party, right? So those of us who are like, that's insane. Well, I had to say that until, you suddenly have me watching, the text threads from the young Republicans, and me having to get very vehement about, like, the vice president's not denouncing that and saying that's just kids. You can't, as a Republican, I really need to be ethically and intellectually consistent. You can't be telling me we need to reduce the age at which we prosecute children as adults to 14, while telling me that 25 to 37-year-olds saying abhorrent, racist, Nazi nonsense is kids' edgy jokes. No, we don't. Not all Republicans will do this right now.
Yeah,
I will denounce that in full 100% of the time, because that should not be a hot take. That should not be a hot take.
Their society right here. Republicans calling out Republican crap. I'm a Democrat, and I will continue to call out Democrat crap. I've been doing it since we started Project Next, and I will continue so, because I'm on the side of community, of people.
I've got a heart out in just a couple minutes. I want to touch on these 2 things. A friend encouraged me, people like you were doing it, and it's part of why I'm doing it. So when you're engaging in the online space, it is not about you and your message with the person you're directly engaging with. I am almost never going to change that person's mind.
Right.
I'm going to be articulate. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to invite people and ask questions. And I hope I sow a seed in their heart. But it is really about the people who read it around the edges, who are even too afraid to emote and react to it.
Yeah, I got a lot of people that are afraid to like anything.
And I've had messages from those people, and I'm sure you have too, going,
yep.
Thank you for what you said. We who are currently bold enough set a tone. Republicans, what I'd say is, because the Democrats have been for a while very hostile towards all of you were Nazis, all of you are XYZ. I know more Republicans who didn't sign up for what's happened in the first 9-10 months of this presidency. I did not vote for President Trump. I generally don't say how I voted. I did not. I voted third party in this last election, because that was just where my heart was. And I don't think anybody expected what they got, because I think even I was like, oh, we'll get like Trump Volume 1 Part 2. I did not expect Project 2025 to be such a real thing that was going to have such traction and was going to be so aggressive. So there are more Republicans I talk to in the quiet of conversation who go, I don't agree with these things, but there's nowhere for them to politically land. So if you're on the left and you're not making a space for them to not
we need to make a space for them. Yes.
They don't have a place to fall away. So they may not vote in the next election, or they may vote quietly, or they may do something else, or they may still vote with the party. I don't know. But if we don't start building a bigger center, 43% of people identify as independents now, and if you
need those independents to come over to the Democrat side for now, and then hopefully the Republicans get better and you can go back when they're better. But for now,
this goes back to my 80% caucus. If we can find what we all agree on, I don't care whether you're red, blue, or purple. If you will agree to these things that are a stack ranked backlog of what would actually fix us, like I would, I got 3 minutes. If I could change things and wave a magic wand, I hope we can all agree that getting corporate money out of politics and saying that corporations aren't people would be a huge boon to our society, getting back to the people running things, ending gerrymandering. I don't know that we can do anything about the primary system, but I can't actually run against Aaron Houchin at this time, because I haven't voted in a Republican primary, so I can't run as a Republican.
And if you ran as a Republican, the party would just not help you at all, and you would
My
lose.
purpose
Because
wouldn't be to
there
win.
was a
It would
decent
be,
Republican that ran against Touchin last time, and he wasn't anywhere close.
if you're not taking corporate money, you can't. But I think it's very important for the soul of my party to have options that believe what they believe and remind
We
them
can
you
talk
don't
about
have
this
to be
later, 'cause
this.
you got to go.
I
Before
gotta
you
do.
go,
But I
how can
thank you
somebody
so much.
talk to you? How can somebody talk to you on? Is there a social media? Is there a website? How can people reach out?
Yeah. So if you get to bandtogetherbrand.com, you can find that on the platform, and that'll get you to my Facebook for the brand. That's a good way. I'm Paul Benjamin Merk on Facebook, but I'm not accepting every friend request. So I like to engage through the secondary medium because I have kids and I have things and it's not always safe to let everybody in. But that's
And you
absolutely
can
an easy
comment
way to
on this
find me.
episode. You can comment on this episode,
And it's a
I
little
can
dead
help
on
get
the
that too.
vine. It's a little dead on the vine right now because I've ended up in 3 other kind of endeavors.
Yeah, you're busy.
But a thoughtful advocate is another Facebook that I run that I've wanted to put
What's it
content
called?
out. A thoughtful advocate.
A thoughtful advocate.
And
You
that's
just
what I'm gonna
followed
be.
me on a Substack.
Yes,
A thoughtful
absolutely,
advocate.
absolutely.
I saw that on there.
So
Okay.
proud. And so, so those are the places to connect. And I want to have more good conversation. I'm gonna give one final shout out to Ethan Sweetland May, who's doing a series of open town halls, which I think is what is civically needed. We are good friends, and I will always grill him. I will always grill him as a Republican, but he's also made it a safe space for kids. So I brought my 9-year-old who had a great time at a civic event.
Nice.
So getting the kids together and engaging and building up a body of the youth to see us peacefully engaging with one another and in disagreement, still being just and fair and kind. So be kind, everybody. At the end of the day, I have to run. But thank you so much for this opportunity. I've had a lovely time.
When you want to come back on again, and we could do like one topic and dive into it. You could teach me the history of something,
Well, I will darn sure be happy to share the things I know, and I'm always excited to learn more, right? The benefit of having ADHD is I get a very broad base with like shallow to medium depth. So I would love to talk more. Again, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Highlight, thank you to CPND for all the great comments. I've been reading them and they've been really nice. Hopefully it helps. You can go ahead and get off. I'm going to talk for a couple more minutes about stuff going on, and message me when you want to come back on. And thanks so much. Thank you. Bye, Ben. Okay, so before we leave, just a couple things to say. I want to thank Ben. There's another Republican. Hopefully you guys realize we're not all created equal. We're all different types of Democrats, all different types of Republicans. Maybe we don't blindly judge the label. Maybe we get to know the person. Let's not take things so personally. And just a couple things about Project Next, if you could help. If you could follow us on YouTube, Project Next Movement, that would really help. If you could subscribe. We have a website, Project Next Indiana. If you go there and type in your website or type in your email, you can get our shows emailed to you. And then you can read the summary and see if it sounds good, because we're pumping out lots of shows. You can pick out which ones you want, which ones you don't want. And then it really helps if you invite your friends on Facebook to follow Project Next. You just get on your Facebook, go to Project Next. There's message, there's follow, and then there's 3 little tiny dots. Click the 3 tiny dots, hit invite friends, hit invite all, hit invite. That helps us grow so much. I'm doing another show on Friday with a woman who is a lawyer, and she is running for judge for Floyd County. So we'll find out a lot about, I don't know much about like being a lawyer. Why would you run for judge? What do judges get to do? What do county judges do? It would be interesting to learn more about that in the judicial process, and why is she doing this? Because we know that you can use the law for your agenda. We see it happening with people getting really long prison sentences and things like that. So judges have a lot of power. So it'll be cool to dive into somebody that is running for judge. So tune into that on Friday. I think it's around lunchtime. And please share the show, follow, like, and subscribe. And then this is to nonprofits. If you are a nonprofit, we are doing sponsors. We're entering in phase 2 of Project Next, where we are growing, and I'm going to start doing little commercials about nonprofits, causes that match up with the Project Next mission. And if you have a nonprofit that you would like to be highlighted on the show, you can do that. For $300, you can get 3 commercials. Or no, for $100, you can get 3 commercials. For $300, we will do a show together. And then for $500, we will do a show and 10 commercials. And then we're going to use that money to get sponsored ads, to pay for our short clips, to pay for StreamYard, which is expensive. That's the system that we use to pump out our content. So we are entering phase 2 of growing. And if you want to be on the beginning part of that, where it is cheaper to advertise with us, message me through Project Next, or if you have my contact, just call or message me. But I'm just starting that. I'm going to have a fundraiser next week on December 10th. I'm going to have a fundraiser and get this rolling. So I'm pretty excited. I would like to thank, I have a donor that helped sponsor the next year of StreamYard. So we got that paid for. So now we're ready to get money for our short clips and then get money for advertising, sponsored ads on Facebook, on YouTube. So I'm pretty excited about it. But if you're a nonprofit that goes along with what we're doing and you'd like to be on the show, get in touch with me. Thank you, Ben, for being on. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I love you guys. The world is not as scary as we are constantly being manipulated to believe. I hope you have a fantastic December cold day. I hope everything goes well, and just keep going and know that most people are good. Love you guys. Bye, everybody.